evening and welcome to the Congo Hour. I am your host, Waynna, and Trippy has the evening off. He has something very special to do, so he is excused. However, I'm really excited because y'all know one of my favorite parts of the show is Sammy's Corner. And yes, Mr. Congo will be back on this week. I wasn't on last week. I think Trippy and I do this once in a while. I don't come on, then he don't come on. But I'm excited because Mr. Congo gets to come on, and I love sitting, just listening to the wisdom that he has. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but you know how Mr. Congo is. So make sure you stay tuned. I have a wonderful guest with me this evening, and I am so honored to have him on the show. And it is Damon Hopkins. He is, he'll tell you his title. I don't want to mess it up, but he's from the Wilmington Housing Authority's Youthbuild program. Welcome to the Congo Hour.
Thank you so much for having me today, Waynna. It's a blessing to be here today. Thanks for having us come out today.
You're welcome. So, Damon, tell me, let's talk a little bit about yourself first.
Okay. Cool. So, again, my name is Damon Hopkins. I've been employed here with the Wilmington Housing Authority for about 6 months now, and it's been a pleasure to join the Youthbuild program. I'm the job developer there, and we have a ball. We have a fun. I just love helping people, but more importantly, I love working with the willing, people that's ready, the people that's on go and want to get it going. So I love to work with someone that's inspired and motivated, to get it done.
All right.
And we have a great time doing it.
Very good. So what is the Youthbuild program?
Youthbuild program is like, it's a program that's for about the first, second, or even third chances for some individuals in life. We work with a cohort of young individuals between the ages of 16 to 24 years of age. They may not have gotten their GED or high school diploma, so we try to help them out to get that. We partner up with Dell Tech and or James Grove, depending on what their niche is for what's going to be best curated for their program. We also help them go into different pathways. So we offer CNA, construction, CDL, IT and logistics, culinary, customer service, just to name a few. And
wait, so these are people who do they have a GED? Do they have to have a GED?
They don't. Okay, so some we're able to accommodate most.
Okay.
So as long as you're between that age range, between the ages of 16 and 24, we do have some individuals that don't have a GED, don't have a high school diploma.
I'm only asking that because if our viewers are between that age limit and are interested, I don't want any barriers to stop them from coming.
I get you. I understand. So let me preface it with this. We have to stay within the confines of a certain limit of individuals that already have a high school diploma or GED that come into our program. But we love to help everyone.
Okay.
But if you don't have a high school diploma and or GED, we can assist you with that and help you get certifications in the different pathways that you may choose for your career path. And we have a great program called a mental toughness, where we actually figure out if you're core. So you come in and you might do that 8 to 10 day time frame. And at that point, you've kind of proven that, you know what, this is for me. I can stay core. And then we add you into the program and get you going.
Oh, good. Very good. So what is your success rate so far?
Success rate so far, since I've been here in a couple of months, we've had 1-2 people that I know right offhand that have already gotten their GED. They decided to do some secondary education. They had an opportunity to go into college, but they chose to just give themselves a little bit more time and decided to go into phlebotomy. So they're actually doing that. We have an individual that's already gotten a CDL, and they're working right now as well. We have some individuals right now, I think this is a success, but it's more of a progression. We have a cohort of individuals that's already involved hands-on training with construction. We have 6 people already doing that right now. Some of them are concurrently getting their education, whether it's a high school diploma in adult high school and or this week, they started with the GED program or adult basic education as well. So it's looking good, it's looking bright for some of these individuals, and they just needed somebody to believe in them so they can just kind of believe in themselves a little bit more.
Right. So if someone was interested, where do you get the participants from?
We get the participants throughout the state of Delaware. We focus on the Wilmington, Newcastle County area. If anyone is interested in the Youthbuild program, you can always reach us or reach me personally at dhopkins at whadelaware.org. And you can also Google the Youthbuild Delaware, and you can get onto our page and just hit the QR code, fill out the application, and it's probably gonna be me or someone from the team that's gonna reach back out to you and follow up and get that interview going and see how we can see if you fit into the program.
Okay, what made you become a part of the Youthbuild program?
You know, it was a blessing. I'm gonna tell you why, because I've always, my mission or motto in life is if I can fulfill a void by the masses, but also take care of my needs and wants and be compensated for at the same time.
Wait a minute. Rewind. That was good, but I want you to say it slower.
Okay.
Because that's power. That's a powerful statement right there.
Right. So my goal or my mission in life is that if I'm able to fulfill a void by the masses and still have my needs, wants, and or desires taken care of by helping someone else, then I feel good about any and everything that I do.
I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's real good. And that's what life is all about, really. Our life is not our own. It's always about helping others. And like you said, being fulfilled as you do it. So I want to go back to my question.
Okay.
Like, what made you, I know your statement there, but like, what were you doing prior to, if you don't mind sharing, and what caused you to come over
Well, I have a very diverse background.
Okay.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also a crisis clinician. I've been doing that for over 13 years. I've been in the social service field since 2004.
Okay.
And still actively involved in that. After COVID and having to basically pivot and shut our business down that I've been doing for about 15 years, it just opened my eyes up to do something a little bit differently. I was working with a very younger individuals, babies from 15 to 13 years of age, or what have you. And now 15 months to 13 years of age. So now it's like, I got to get the total person. And this opportunity, someone else passed up on it. Actually, my wife heard about the program and she said, listen, this is not for me, but dang, I think this might be for you.
Really?
So she shared it with me and I listened, I looked at it. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that just like that. And then literally the next day, I heard a commercial on the Power 99. And I was like, babe, that's my job right there.
For the Youthbuild?
For the youth, I hadn't even applied yet. So when I applied, you know, things just happened the way it did, and I eventually got in, and that's what kind of like stirred me into this direction. So it's not just work, it's a little bit more for me, because if they win, I win.
Right. So you said your wife, shout out to?
Tamisha Hopkins, you know what I mean, Twisted Soul Sisters LLC. She has a catering business, she's been doing that.
That's your wife?
Yeah.
She has to come on.
Okay.
I've had her food.
Have you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah, me too.
I bet you do. Yeah, she'll have to come on the show.
We'll make sure it happens. Her and my sister does it, and my sister-in-law, she does treats as well, called Tanisha's Treats, and it's been awesome.
Oh,
it's been awesome.
Good. Okay, we'll have to have them on.
No problem. Thank you for the invite.
So you started how long ago?
We started with, you talking about with Youthbuild? I've been with Youthbuild for it'll be 6 months, or it just turned 6 months this week.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. So today
Happy
is
anniversary.
Thank you. Is today the 25th?
Yes.
It's been yesterday.
No, wait. Oh, Lord, no. So I should have warned you. We pre-record on Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
It shows on Sundays.
All right, so I'm going to just say this week.
This week was your anniversary.
It was my anniversary, yes.
Oh, well, still congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see you and you just flow. I thought you actually been there for years.
No, if I see something that needs to be done, I just jump in and do it. You know, it's like, it's important, like first impressions is the lasting impression, right? And everybody got stuff, so either you're gonna talk about the stuff or you're gonna make the best out of it.
Right.
So I wanna make sure we curate an experience that when one comes into it, it's one that they wanna come back to. So no matter what they leaving from or what they going back home to, when they here, I wanted to make them feel good while they're here and make it feel like a home while they're here.
Very Very good. So I want to encourage our viewing audience, if you know someone that may be interested, to please reach out to Damon. Damon, give them your information again.
Again, my information, if you want to call me directly, I'm at 302-579-2998 with the Youthbuild program of Wilmington Housing Authority. And my email address is dhopkins at WHA spelled out.org. Please feel free to give us a call, and we would definitely try to accommodate you to the best of our abilities.
Okay, did I miss anything that you want to talk about or
I think
share?
everything is going well. Right now is a great time. There's a lot of traction going on, and it's exciting at the time that we're doing it. And I think everything happens in certain seasons. So a lot of seeds have been sown. I want to definitely give a shout out to our team. From Wes Southall to Sandra Countley to Renee Albritton to Joe Nicholas to Robin McKinney Newman. She just transitioned on to another position, but she was definitely part of that. Okay. Mike was all that. We have our whole team, everybody that's definitely been involved, and Dr. Willis as well. And that no one goes unnoticed. Everybody's doing a good work. And at the end of the day, our participants, shout out to y'all as well, and keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next time, I would love, I want to schedule you and have someone that has experienced the program to come on and share their experience.
That'll be awesome.
Okay.
That'll be awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back.
DETV has been Delaware's premium provider of creative digital and broadcasting solutions that bridges communities and connects people. We create great stories for all audiences. We deliver independent news throughout Delaware. We are digital platform innovators. And we develop marketing and sales solutions so you can stay connected to your audience. Now, why do we do what we do here on DETV? We do it because we care. So, keep watching and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Remember, DETV, online, on air, on time.
All right, so now it is time for my favorite part of the show, and that is Sammy's Corner. And he shared with me the topic, and I'm really excited to get into it. I'm more inquisitive, really, to see what he has to say about it. So, Mr. Congo, welcome to your Sammy's Corner.
Thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for inviting me to the Congo Hour.
You're welcome.
You know, last week it was very interesting. We talked about the controversy between bringing folks from out of the city to work or try to look for folks inside. And what we kind of arrived at, this is a universal problem, not only in Wilmington, but in the county, in the state, and other states, that is attributed to stigmas that have been placed upon these jobs, or it's a fancy way of power people having friends that are outside of the city, wanting their friends to come in, and so, which leaves potential people in the city without an opportunity for those jobs. So I guess the city council had a say about that, and they rose up and spoke on how they felt about this process, because they were not a part of the process. This was something that I guess just some individuals said this is the way to get folks to come in town by changing the standards that Wilmington had. And so, you know, we talked about that, and through that, I began to wonder why there was also a lack of people that could fill those jobs. And I came up with values, okay? And those values weren't based on getting a job. You know, those values were living in a system that they had to live in order to survive. And so I call that crime. I don't call what the dictionary says is crime. I call some elements: lack of education, lack of housing,
Affordable housing, or housing period.
just housing.
Housing in general.
Housing for people who are prepared for a decent wage. Once you get a decent wage, you don't want to live in affordable housing. You want to live in your own house and have your own family, and you don't want to be governed by a system that disrespects you. And so I think that is a goal that would prevent, and without these goals, I think that is what crime is, not how it's identified in the dictionary, but the crime is the implementation of those factors that I just spoke about that cause a culture to arrive. And that culture is survival. And so how do we, without money, survive? One of the good examples is folks were very concerned about people living with minimum wages. And so all of a sudden they said, okay, the A people, I call it the A people over the B people, right?
Okay.
So the A people said, how are we gonna make it? If we're gonna give them all these wages, then how do we survive? And they quickly determined that a $2 McDonald's hamburger turned to be a $6, which allowed them to maintain their standards of living and income. So now the everyday folk who were getting the $2 hamburgers have to pay $6 or whatever the number is.
Right.
If they want a hamburger. And the $15 an hour people will live a lot better than they did when they were getting $7 an hour, whatever the minimum wage was. And there was a struggle to try to make that work. But eventually it came out that the only way we can make this work is to increase the wage. Yeah. And so you see a better people in McDonald's now. If you go to McDonald's now, you'll see an older crowd. You don't see the kids as much. There are some kids, but you begin to see an older crowd that have a different outlook on life. They're more courteous and all those things that are afforded when you have a decent education or a decent exposure, that you interact with people and not kids that are not prepared to even take on a job.
That's true, and I didn't really recognize it until you just mentioned it, because I haven't been to McDonald's in a long time, but the last time I went to the one up on 202, and it was a lot more mature people, as you said, than it was the younger generation.
And that's what happens when you attract a certain people and prepare them to take on the responsibility of customer service. And so many young people don't even, if you ask them what was customer service, they would have no clue.
Yeah. And
they said, I just got a job.
I cringe with the young people and their lack of customer service.
Yeah, because they don't value it. They don't understand it. They don't live in that culture. The culture that they live in, you're allowed to say anything, do anything, just be rude. And that's sometimes cool in that culture. When you're in a culture where those items are not acceptable behavior, you get a different culture. And so that kind of shows that what I was saying, education, money, housing, culture, allows crime to disappear. It will automatically disappear. But if you go into a culture, a neighborhood where that is acceptable behavior, you're going to find crime because that's the culture that lets them survive.
Right. So true. It is. And I was like, okay, you said we was talking about crime. I'm thinking we talking about gunfights and all of that. But I mean, what you say does lead to that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And along with that, there's the control factor. Of course, as we have kids and they grow up in that culture, there's got to be some place to put them after they reach a certain age. And so we create a better prison system. And the prison system is a reward for trying to live in that culture.
Yeah.
And so that culture and that environment that breeds that kind of behavior and those what we call crime by the other day Walgreens up by
on Union Street?
Yeah. They're going out of business up there. They're closing November the 11th.
Okay.
But what came out of that was, where did I come out of it? I went in there to pick up his prescription. Young lady was running out there with both arms full of products. And this security man was chasing her. But he stopped, and I said, why'd you stop? He said, I can't put my hands on him. So, they're handicapped. And these people know that.
Right.
And so surviving in that culture, learning to behave and do things that will get you the things that you need, whatever it might be, toilet paper or hand towels or soap or toothpaste, and you can't afford it, you go get it.
Yeah.
And
true. I was thinking, not only is it the older people, but now since parents can't correct, I'll use that word, their children, like they know that their parents can't correct them and they threaten them. If you do, then I'm calling 911 on you, because you can't tap your child anymore.
I think that's a part of the intentional attempt to make sure that this group of people are allowed to do what they want to do so they can fall in that trap. That's a trap.
I never looked at it like that.
Yeah. To condition and prepare these kids to misbehave in school, misbehave everywhere, on the job, and they just don't need to work because there are, from just my point of view, support services to this trap that provide. No, it's not for everybody.
Right, I understand.
But when you see so many people who are living in subsidized systems, and they exploit it. They do all kinds of stuff. Go to work anyway. Say, give it to me under the table. All that stuff. But they learn to survive because they couldn't make it on the subsidized money that's given to them to control them. So this whole system is, when you really identify it, and we've got to learn how to reject that culture. We've got to learn and create better schools,
Yes.
better homes. I talked to some people, a young man by the name of Dwight Davis, you know David.
I know.
And he
Yes.
is very excited about being on the reparation
Yes.
task force. And he sees that, and so do I, as bringing to the attention of those people that created these systems in order to exploit people to make enough money to become wealthy. When you get free labor, that's how America got powerful.
Right.
By having slaves, and slaves couldn't get money, they couldn't get educated. Educating a slave might be death. You know, you might get hung, you might get shot for educating a slave.
Yeah.
And so, and they had to maintain this culture to survive. Because if slaves said, I'm not gonna work anymore, hey, plantation man would be out of business. But he had to create some fear. And that fear was, beatings and all kind of stuff to maintain that control. And that control was what was in China for a while, because they got cheap labor. That has worked. And when folks say that we have not paid our price for being brought here by force, and the people that came here on their own because they wanted to better their conditions. There's two different pots, yeah.
That's so true.
And so the pot where people came over here to escape the tyranny, that was where they came from. Most people did, everybody didn't.
Right.
But most people did. They wouldn't leave home if it was great. To come here to a country they know nothing about. But I find that thing needs to be reversed a little bit. And I think they were doing that back in I guess they started back when they tried to do some set-asides and all that stuff to help us where we were rejected and
Talk about
prevented.
set-asides. What do you mean by that?
A set-aside meant that if a contract went out, that the majority contractor would have to have a certain percentage set aside for minority contractors. And that was good until they realized how fast we were growing. And then they decided that, boy, this is crazy. So they put their wives out there as minorities, because at that time, women were minorities. Although they were the majority in volume, there are more women in America than there are men. But that's the stigma that was placed on them, so that they could take on and compete with minority people. And most of the time they won, and then their husband would come out of the cracks and run the company. But they were categorized as a minority, and it sort of set us way back, and we had to start. And we're starting all over again because of things that have happened and are still happening to prevent us from being on the same playing field. It's just so much. And so I just feel that tremendous effort has to be made through reparation that would allow us to do to allow the people to do what is necessary to prepare people who have been neglected and denied an opportunity to grow and be comfortable in America.
Yeah. You need to take a break? Get
No,
some
I'm
water?
fine.
You
I'm
good?
fine.
All right. Okay. What was I gonna say? Gee, I'm younger than you and lost my thought process, what I was getting ready to talk about. So you go ahead, and if it pops back up, I'll
What's that again?
I said I was going to say something, but it slipped my mind. I said, and I'm younger than you.
That's
I said, but we'll keep on going, and when it pops back,
much younger. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And so it's kind of interesting to me to have lived all these years and to watch how people are still denied and purposely denied because of the color of your skin. And it's so prevalent that if we would have two candidates, and in the white community, the candidate was black, he wouldn't have a chance out in the white community to win. And normally, if you put a white candidate in a black community, he wouldn't win, normally. Mm-hmm. So the color of your skin and how we've been conditioned has a tremendous effect on the behavior and the results of your behavior and who it has impact on. And so we are not, we are powerless people because we don't have any money. And if you got money, you began to have a little bit. But because we've also been made stereotyped, that we still reject each other. And so in that process or in that system, we can't grow as long as we keep doing that.
On that note, we're going to take a break because Trippy has arrived. So we're going to bring him on to the set, okay?
Okay.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm so glad that Trippy has arrived.
Government doesn't make a move without an agenda, some type of plan. The problem is we haven't been on the agenda. Sometimes we're overlooked. Sometimes our interests aren't the interest of those in power. I'm your host, Kerwin Gaines, on DETV's new show, The Agenda. We're going to do our best to ensure that you, Delawareans, are knowledgeable about what's going on in the Assembly, federal government, local government, it doesn't matter. We're going to do our best to ensure that folks that make the agenda on a daily basis have to answer for it. Let them explain what they're doing. If it affects you, it's on the agenda.
Hello. It is good to be here. I want to thank Waynna and my dad for holding it down while I was at a council meeting. We finished early. I'm going to come over here just to be a part of the conversation. I really don't know what the conversation was, but I know it was a good one since Sammy's Corner is back in effect for 2 weeks now.
That's what I said,
Yeah,
back to back. I'm loving it.
So how's the show been going? What have you guys been talking about?
You know your dad is always full of wisdom. So we've been talking about crime.
Okay.
And it's Sammy's definition of crime, which is?
Well, I don't think that. I think crime is a result of factors. Those factors are unemployment, uneducated, poor housing, and family control. And so you can't really tell your kids what to do because they can walk out the door and you can do absolutely nothing. And so that street is preparing them to deal with a culture that they have to live in order to survive. And that culture creates those factors that we call crime. But crime is those factors that I mentioned. And that's the real crime. What we call crime is a result of those factors.
Right.
I guess I think what the real crime is that, what you're saying I think is absolutely right, but the real crime to me is that we have a political system that allows that to happen, if that makes sense. That allows people to have poor housing, that allows people to be uneducated, that allows people to not be able to discipline their children. I think that's a bigger conversation, because I think that those things can, because I think at some point, like, we know what it is, but we have to begin to talk about how do we fix it? Like, how do we fix the things that you were just talking about? And I think one of the only ways, well, you know, me being in politics now, it helps me to understand things from a different perspective. And I just think at some point we have to understand the power of our political system, and how do we get in the driver's seat and steer it in the direction that we want it to go, instead of just kind of taking these. I guess I get frustrated, like, being in politics and knowing that there are definite solutions out there, but we are not willing to take the risk and be sometimes be offensive and sometimes go against the grain, because I just don't want to keep on taking these, like, little baby steps to the promised land. I think that we as politicians have to begin to be brave enough to say, okay, that enough is enough, and what are we really going to do about some of the things that you just talked about, and not in incremental stages, because we'll be talking about it for another 200 years. I think if we keep doing it in incremental stages, and I think that's what the political system wants us to, like, to give us these little pieces of bread when the whole loaf is really ours.
The crumbs.
Right. I don't know. I guess that's what I'm looking for, and I know that it's probably easier said than done. But I just think that if the churches get behind us, and if the community really gets behind us, some of the politicians who may be kind of hesitant and worried about other politicians and what they think, they'll take that first step.
Well, I believe that politicians, and this is probably, I don't mean this to be offensive, but I think they're more of a pawn, because powerful people select people to carry out their ambitions and their values and goals through, what's the guys that do the campaigning for in Washington? The
lobbyists.
Lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
And lobbyists are paid tremendous amounts of money, much more than politicians are being paid by these powerful people to when you think that a man will spend $5 million, $10 million for a $300,000 job, there has to be some kind of hidden motive. So anybody would be crazy to give up that much money, but it's not their money. It's coming from these people who want certain things done so that they survive and can carry out their goals and their ambitions and what makes them comfortable and what makes them set aside to be a people.
And you brought up, I'm going to cut you off there, but you brought that up to me before, and how we have to understand how we have to be financially ready and prepared to support politicians so that so once they get in office, they don't feel like beholden to a corporation or to a higher power. Like our community has to understand we need the vote, but we also need you to help financially so that politician is beholden to the community and not to a certain entity.
I was going to say, I know you think y'all talked about it last week, but my experience a couple of weeks ago at council was, it was real crazy. One, because I feel as though those that are in office are put in office by the people. And when the people speak up and you don't listen, that's a big problem to me.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. That was I don't know if you guys talked about that today?
No, we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, that was very, very disappointing that we had a meeting around residency, and we talked about it and the importance of the meeting. I'm glad so many people came out. It was to me, it was a great meeting.
It was.
Because the community really showed up. And they were passionate, and understandably so, because it's bigger than residency. But getting back to what you were saying, Waynna, we had about 3 hours of public comment at the minimum. We've never had, since I've been on council, we've never had that much public comment before. And every single person except for
a handful,
4 people, except for 4 people, supported residency. And for us as a council to not hear the people's cry and institute residency was very, very disappointing. I'm sure those who don't support residency and want residency relaxed, they have their reasons why. But to hear that and to be in that meeting and to hear just community member after community member after community member say, institute residency, because it gave the reasons why, and all of them made sense to me. And for us still not to do that as a council, it was disappointing.
Yeah, it was a slap in the face.
It was bad.
Well, you've got to understand how they got there in the first place, how the council people got to be council people. And then you've got to understand that the relevancy of the income of a part-time, this is a very responsible job to determine the quality of life for people in this city, and we make it a part-time job. It's a full-time job to be able to go out and hang out with the people in your district and really find out. And you got a full-time job somewhere, pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a good point.
One overrides the other, and you don't have and I think you got to be paid a certain amount of money to go out and hustle, because look what those guys make that are supporting the big companies in Washington and any other setting that is political. So you got to understand that if you're going to pay those people right, if you go to a good doctor You know, money is a reward of a service and the value of that service. I pay a dishwasher $10 an hour. I pay a lawyer $300 an hour because of the value of what he can do for me. And so I think you need to understand that goes in every setting. So for us to begin to understand and hang out in our communities, it must have taken a pretty good effort or spreading the gospel that council meeting brought all those people in. It just didn't happen. Somebody worked on that. And as a result of them coming, I know they feel better. And if things go goofy, they're going to come back again, and they're going to keep coming back. And I think that the council itself needs to create an environment where these people can really participate.
Yeah.
And we did.
You did.
I'm sure
Yeah,
you
we
did.
We did. But the participation and the voices weren't heard by council. That's the frustrating part. Because I don't know, I guess what we need to define participation, but we allowed the community to come and tell us why, and tell us, why residency and how it can be effective and how it can be improved. Like we heard from the public for 3 hours at least.
Well, two of the people though did, unless something else changed, two of them changed their vote and came on over to the other side.
Yeah, it was and we don't have enough time. I wish I were here earlier so I could really break down everything that happened. But it worked. Like that community, the pleas from the community worked that night.
But it fell on some deaf ears as well.
It fell on some deaf ears.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the part that I don't understand, like how council members could hear those pleas for 3 hours straight and still not understand that we need to listen to the people who showed up.
2024 is right around the corner.
Right.
There's two systems: crises intervention and process intervention. What you saw in that meeting was crises intervention. That meeting can be turned into a process that lets council people know if they don't behave proper and represent them well, through that process, they won't be there next year, however that goes. So a lot of us respond to crises, and we're going to get rid of that because the process is what allows everybody to understand and be a part of.
I agree, and I wish I had more time to talk about.
What's that?
I wish I had more time to really break
So
down.
what's the next step? The leadership that is required to initiate the process, because now that you got the ball rolling, how do you keep that train on the track?
I guess I don't know if we have the ball rolling. So we called. I'm going to try to do a summary. So at that meeting, we wanted to vote on residency because the community, some council members heard the community and they were willing to support the community. So we wanted to vote on that piece of legislation. The sponsor held it, so we couldn't vote on it. So the intent of that meeting was to get rid of residency. And the community showed up and said, no, we don't want to get rid of it. And some of those council members who wanted to
the sponsor didn't even come.
Right, yeah,
but,
no.
Okay.
Right. Some of the council members who were for getting rid of residency heard the community and said, okay, we're going to make an amendment to this law and say that we want residency. But the sponsor held it, so we couldn't vote on it. So the next day, I called a special meeting. A special meeting is because usually council meets 2 times a month, first and third Thursdays. I called a special meeting so that we could introduce new legislation so that we could vote on residency. I don't know if we're going to have enough support. At first we did, Thursday night we did. I don't know and today is Wednesday, 4 days later, I don't know if we do.
So did they just say that because we were there?
No, they were ready. No, they were ready to vote on it. I believe in my heart that they were ready to vote on it because they heard the community.
So what changed?
I don't know. I don't know what changed over the last few days, but things change, and I don't know. We're going to vote on it. So when legislation comes before council, it has to come to a council meeting where it's read. Like we have the first reading or the second reading. We don't discuss it, and then it goes to a committee, and then it goes back to council for a third and final when we have a little bit more discussion in committee, and then a little bit more maybe on council floor, and then we vote on it. So we want to, like I call it 2 special meetings because I thought that we had the support from council members to reestablish, and that's a whole nother conversation, residency. But I don't know if we do now. And I don't want to speak on anybody without knowing. That's why I'm not mentioning any names. I don't think that would be fair. But I don't know if we have enough. But I know I can tell you right now who does support it.
Okay.
And this isn't saying that the names that I'm going to mention that they don't, but I can tell you for sure who told me that they do support residency. It's Councilmember Vincent White from the 1st District, Councilmember Shanae Darby from the 2nd District, Councilmember Xanthia Oliver from the 3rd District, Councilmember Michelle Harley from the 4th District.
That's it?
That's it. But I don't want to say that other members who I didn't mention that they don't, but I haven't heard that they do. But we'll find out in a few days. We'll find out tomorrow, matter of fact.
One council person already had their mind made up because they said that you might not like it, but I'm still going with it before the public even spoke. I was like, wow.
It was a lot. It was a lot to unpack from that meeting.
It clearly indicates that these people are not elected by the district people in terms of full involvement. The 2nd District, for instance, if the people in the 8th District is pretty educated, have all the whistles and buttons. Mm-hmm. If they don't want something, there's going to be a real crisis intervention. Mm-hmm. Because they have a lot to lose. Mm-hmm. When people have reached a point where in the 3rd District, only 500 or 700 people vote, mm-hmm. It means that people have lost their interest and respect and value for these people, and they don't care what happens. Mm-hmm. And you can't let that happen in the city. People in the 8th District have a lot to lose. Mm-hmm. So they're going to respond and protect. Right. So we got to begin to generate that kind of enthusiasm and educate so that they can respond in a certain way. Mm-hmm. That I'll be quiet.
No, you're right. And I think we definitely have to continue this conversation on next Sunday.
Next Sunday we have 2 people that will be running for office that will be here. So love to hear their viewpoint.
Very important, because this isn't just, I know we're running out of time, but this isn't just, so there are council members, there are city council members, but also there are state legislators, there are senators, there are members of Congress who I want to hear. Like, I think that the community deserves to hear from them also, because they also represent the community. They also represent the community. It might not be a state issue, but it's a city issue, and if they're representing those in the city, I just want to be able to hear their point of view too.
All right, That's a great way to end the show.
All right. Well, thank you again for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed our 2nd edition in a row of Sammy's Corner. We'll see if he makes it back next week. Probably not, because if he doesn't have at least 35 minutes to talk, he gets upset. He starts pouting. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do for next Sunday. God willing, we will see you next week. And have a great week, everyone.